of today's Raised in Wisco. Welcome to the Fishbowl, everybody. I'm Joel Clayfish, alongside my co-host Danielle Fairman. You're listening to Raised in Wisco on 540 AM, WAUK 101 FM, The Shaw. We're going to get to that. I'm fired up, Danielle.
You fired up?
Do you know why?
Because of the Canadian wildfires?
No. No, but I guess if you were going along a line of something that would make sense, the Canada wildfires would make sense. You know, it was really, here's the crazy thing. My wife spent some time in China, and back, 2 days ago, it was the worst it was. Waukesha County, Jefferson County, southeast Wisconsin, was the worst place in the world for air quality at the time. And she kind of chuckled, and I said, "What is funny about that?" And she said, "This is what it's like every day in China."
Every day? Every
single day in China. So the smog that's coming out of the manufacturing there and that type of thing. So I do find, how is that relevant? I do find it kind of funny when people think that we are so in control of global warming or, that we can have some kind of impact on it. And in reality, in the United States, we are blessed to have very good air quality for the vast majority of the time. And now we're dealing with it. And yes, the smoke in the air, I have noticed that I've been a little more stuffed up, a little less likely to sleep well at night because of it. But that aside, I am super, super excited because I am on a national television show, on two national television shows that debuted this last week. The Spirit of the Wild on the Pursuit Channel, on Ted Nugent's show, The Spirit of the Wild. I do 4 cooking segments during this season. You can check that out on Pursuit Up, which is an app. Pursuit Up, it's a free app. And what's even more exciting to me, super exciting, Chad Belding, the national host of The Foul Life, was in town last week. As you know, he was on our show with us last week. But the new episodes of season 15 of The Foul Life just came out on the Outdoor Channel. You can check those out and My Outdoor TV if you get that app. At that time, so right now, 2 national television shows out that have come out that have cooking, provider-style cooking, taking food from the field to the table, which is one of the most exciting things in my life. And at the same time, Civic Media is expanding their footprint in Wisconsin. I think, Anastasia, how many do we have now? Like 13 stations throughout Wisconsin?
That's a great question. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, it's something that I don't know either, but it's something like 13 stations, and we're expanding to 18 stations throughout the state of Wisconsin. So everybody gets to hear the voice and participate in Raised in Wisco. So if you're into the silent sports, that I learned recently, that's what they call people in kayaks. The silent sports.
How? What? How? Well, I guess because you're not talking to anybody out there.
If you're climbing a mountain or you're in a kayak or you're hiking a trail, I guess there's no, unless you're hiking while you're hunting, and then there's a bang when you do that. But I guess hunting's kind of a silent sport too, isn't it?
Especially if you're deer hunting, you can't really chit-chat a whole bunch.
No, you don't chit-chat a lot. But that's why I love waterfowl hunting, because you can talk to your buddies while you're doing it. You can sit in the blind and yammer. Do you talk a lot? You talk a lot. You probably talk a lot when you're in the blind, don't you? Waterfowl
I have
hunting.
I have my moments.
Yeah.
There's some days I would like to go out there and just not say a word and just listen.
One of the best hunts I ever had in my life was when we were hunting with John Whitmore in the fog that day.
I was just talking about that because that picture showed up, and it was... that was the minus North Dakota, because I had a couple of good experiences in North Dakota. But with the fog coming in, you can hear them, but you can't see them.
We had
and all
fog.
Of a sudden, their feet just locked up, and bam.
Oh, that was so great. I mean, we had a fog ceiling that was down to probably about 20 feet above our heads. And so we kept calling to them, and they were going to the calls, not the decoys, because they couldn't see them. And then all of a sudden, we saw their feet 20 yards up, and oh my gosh, that was awesome. And I think we got our limit that day too, and that was super exciting. But so I'm really excited because it is like a media storm of Wisconsin outdoors going on in the world right now. And I have the opportunity, and you have the opportunity. You met with Chad and the Foul Life guys the other day, and just the network and the people who are into the hunting sports and waterfowl hunting, they're just all such good-hearted people.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a community. Like, everybody has to get into it. Everybody just loves each other. Everyone's equal. We're just all
it's fantastic. Hunting. And, my thing is taking new hunters. I love getting people to experience the outdoors and hunting for the first time. There's nothing like the look on someone's face when they harvest their first animal or just get out there and see their first sunrise from the woods.
Yes.
That's an incredible feeling as well. And one of the other reasons I'm so excited, it's like a firestorm of excitement. Now, I'm going to go back to your Canada wildfire pun. It's a firestorm of excitement to me because I'm in the middle. For me, life is about going on hunting trips, and you work in the middle, and you work so that you can enjoy life, right? Mm-hmm. You don't live life to work. You live.
I have a life. I work to have a life. I don't have a life to work.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a very good way of putting it. And that's one of the coolest things that in my life that I'm so honored to be able to do is that I love my work so much. We got the Kennedy clan out in Oconomowoc listening to us. And for me, life is about working to be able to share what we do in the outdoors with the people I work with. We share it with the disabled community, which I work heavily with. We had our outdoor adventure series at Buck Rub last week, which was phenomenal. Taking people to Buck Rub Archery. Big thank you to Kaz. He was amazing. We had 4 people who had never shot a vertical bow in their life, and they were shooting bows and hitting bullseyes by the end of a couple hours, having the time of their lives. So that's how I get to. I'm always trying to figure out a way to incorporate what I love to do in the outdoors into my job. And that's what makes it so cool. So all the time, I'm either on a hunting trip, and it's partially for my job, or I'm planning a hunting trip at that. So I'm always doing one of the two things. And one of the greatest waterfowl hunting experience I had with my buddy, Jerry Valdez, who he's actually a government affairs guy out in Texas. So whenever I get to go visit him out in visit my daughter out in Texas, I try to hook up with Jerry Valdez. I was on the phone with him on the way here, and we were talking about it, and we've got our guests. I'm just kind of holding our guests at bay because they have such exciting stuff this week. I was so jacked about this week because there's such exciting stuff to talk about. But Jerry Valdez and I were talking about, and our guests were talking about how many species there are in Texas to hunt that are now fair game wild species. They were brought over at some point. You've got aoudad, various varieties of sheep and rams, and nilgai. And if you don't know what that is, look it up, Nilgai. They are like this massive animal from India that has proliferated throughout Texas. And if I preach this all the time, if you have not taken the opportunity to get up and go somewhere and hunt, Texas is a really great place if you want to try kind of some maybe exotic-ish hunting, or you don't want to go that far, you don't want to spend that much money. Texas is the answer, and I'm just so excited because I'm trying to talk Jerry Valdez. We hunt together, and he's just a fantastic dude, and he's a great guy to hang out with. So I'm kind of trying to talk him into meeting me out there. Then I can convince my wife and kids that we should go to visit my daughter at Baylor and stay on a hunting ranch.
And kicker.
Oh, we get to stay on a hunting ranch and do cooking segments for the provider for the Fowl Life for Ted Nugent show. I mean, it all comes together so nicely.
So does.
That was
you just got to play the card of you get to have great food and sit by the fire and enjoy the skylight.
It's the best. And everything is big in Texas, I'm telling you. Do you like my hat today? Can you read it?
It says
Trailer Park Rich.
Trailer Park Rich, and it has Florida on it.
I came in and Dom and Crute were in here from the Devil's Advocate, and they're dear friends of mine, and they got a kick out of the hat. It says Trailer Park Rich, and I like the saying Trailer Park Rich because I think it absolutely encompasses what it's like kind of to be into the outdoors and hunting. And I kind of am a self-proclaimed redneck, and I'm okay with that. But what that means is you don't have to be real wealthy to enjoy life.
You do not.
You can be trailer park rich, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that means even if I'm going down and hunting gators out of my single wide in Catfish Creek, Yeehaw Junction, Florida, I'm trailer park rich, and there's not a happier person on this planet than me when I'm doing it. So I just think, I got a friend who makes the trailer park rich clothing down in Florida, and it just really summarizes how I think everybody should look at life. Whatever position you're in, you can have richness in your life, and that's just phenomenal.
You can still be happy outdoors and hunting.
Holy cow, I just about talked off the whole first segment. We got 3 minutes left. I don't even know if I'm going to get to introduce our guest. What did you do this week? Did you have a busy week?
This week? I worked all week in this wonderful smoke of ours. But other than that, I got a new kayak and went out fishing.
Oh, you are a silent sportsman.
I am a silent sportsman. Even though you think I love to talk, I also love not saying a word. I don't even listen to the radio when I'm in the vehicle. Not happening.
Really?
Yeah,
I think. Do one of our guests have their phones dinger on? Some phone keeps dinging, or I'm hearing it.
Yeah, I
in
keep
my
hearing that too.
I'm hearing it in my headphones. I don't know. Maybe that's just saying, "Hey, that's how many seconds to break" or something. You know what? I say that too, and I've never been a person in my life accused of not saying enough. But I do still enjoy the time in the deer stand or in the blind or stalking, South Africa and being quiet, because something that I heard growing up, and my dad used to tease me a little bit about it, like you learn a lot more when your mouth is shut and your ears are open. And that's a fact.
You sure do.
So I think that is good advice. And there are very few times that are more quintessentially healing on the soul than when you're sitting out in a blind. I tell you what's crazy about summer in Wisconsin. Today's really like one of the first extremely hot, humid days we've had.
It was a pretty nasty day.
Yeah.
Working outside in this was not convenient.
No, I bet it wasn't. And then plus you didn't have super great air quality. Danielle, if you don't know, is a heavy equipment operator by night. By day. By night. That would be strange. By day. And then she is a hunting phenom during the rest of the time. Would you call yourself a phenom?
I don't even know what the word phenom means.
Well, it's short for phenomenal. You're a phenomenal hunter. Anastasia's nodding.
I shall use that. That's how I'm going to describe myself.
You're a hunting phenom from now on. I'm going to tell you what we have today. We've got John Miller and Ben Wazkowski, who traveled 89 hours into the furthest reaches of Russia to hunt brown bears, otherwise known to the layman as grizzly bears. And their adventure almost killed both of them, which is why I'm not sure that it's something that's ever going to be for me.
So on the
but
three
we'll
planes,
see.
one train ride, and a helicopter
I mean,
ride?
planes, trains,
Right.
automobiles, snowmobiles. But for some reason, this story's also got a pound of raw bacon in it. We're going to get to that, too. You're listening to Raised in Wisco on 540 AM, WAUK 101 FM, The Shaw.
Back to the USSR.
Party like a Russian. End of discussion. Dance like you got concussion.
So apropos. Party like a Russian. Two guys who partied like Russians, and probably nearly didn't come back from the USSR, the former USSR. John Miller and Ben Wazkowski. Last time we talked, you guys were planning this trip, and I was literally worried, I'll say goodbye to him. Might be the last time you see him.
Yeah, this whole plane, train, and helicopter ride will kind of divert me.
Don't forget the bus.
So
what drove you guys into that?
Yeah, don't forget this is a trip that takes 89 hours over the course of how many days?
3 days.
3 days, 89 hours. Take me through what first of all, what in the hell makes you think that you should do this in the first place?
Yeah.
And secondly, what's it like as you're on your way there getting ready to hunt grizzly bears in Russia?
I don't think the trip out was as bad as the trip coming home, because we knew what we were getting ourselves into on the way back. But
Oh yeah, you were excited, ready for.
So
landing.
tell me how does it lead? How does the trip go? Give me a summary of how that trip goes to get there in the first place and where you're going.
so we flew out of Chicago O'Hare to Istanbul, Turkey.
It's Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Yep. And so then we laid over there for a little while, and then we jump on a plane to Moscow. And directly, as soon as we get off the plane, we go across town to another airport.
Okay, stop. I don't think you just go to Russia, though. I mean, you don't just show up with your passport in Russia, do you?
No, you got to get a Russian visa.
Okay.
You can apply for like a I don't know, a shorter one, or you can get a year one, or you can get a 3-year one. But that
so
takes a
when
little
you go
bit.
to Russia, are you stopped? Is there like former KGB dudes around?
Oh, yeah,
talking
yeah.
to you? Do they talk to you? What do they ask you?
Yeah, we
What
have
was
a
that
short
like?
interview. They ask just some simple questions just to make sure who you are, with the visa that you have. But
So they're asking you. They've researched you.
they know about you. Yeah.
They know about you.
Yeah.
Is that freaky?
I would have been terrified about
I was
that.
fine.
I don't think I would get into Russia, having worked in the government for 14 years, 15, 16
Yeah,
years.
you might not get a visa.
I mean, for real.
For real? Come on. You'll be
Mr.
fine.
Clayfish, we would like to know what are your motives?
Sit down here.
What are your motives as you visit Russia?
Don't move.
So did that happen? Were they asking what your motives were there and why you were going to be in Russia? Or
Yeah, pretty much.
did they ask you about like, hey, was it fairly pleasant?
Yeah, it was fairly pleasant. I mean, the weirdest thing was they asked how we felt about the war in Ukraine and stuff like that. And
That's interesting. I don't know that I'd want to answer that question to
Yeah,
Russian
I feel like
folks.
it's either way you answer is going to be a wrong answer.
no, it's not. You just got to say you love Russia, and then that's all they want to hear.
Oh, okay.
So that's what everybody
Mother-
said.
Russia.
I was in Russia when it was still the Soviet Union, and I have to say the people that I met there were some of the kindest people I've ever met. And the beluga caviar was one of the best tasting things I've ever eaten in my life. Okay, so you're in Moscow. Then what's your next step? Then what?
Well, we overnighted in Moscow.
Hold on. This is Ben Wazkowski. We're trading mics back here. I got to talk to Crew. We need another mic in this studio. We need
we
4
sure do.
mics. All right, so Ben, you get to Moscow, then what?
Okay, well, we got to Moscow from Istanbul, and we actually ran around. We were in a Russian shopping mall. We had to exchange money.
What do they have in a Russian
It
shopping
was
mall?
a lot like America. I
Really?
mean,
Levi's and
yep. Food, Levi's. It was. We went to.
do they have
Percy.
Mick Borscht at McDonald's?
We saw Burger King.
Okay.
We saw Burger King there.
All right.
But anyways, so we got a whole bunch of foreign currency exchange for the guys that were following us. We went with 9 of us, and then we got back to the hotel, and we spent the night in the hotel, and then in the morning we got up and we got back to the airport, a different airport, and flew. What do they call that when you're in country? Domestic flight. Yeah.
So so when you get to Moscow, that's already your second day, right?
Yeah.
On
yeah.
the road.
Well,
Okay.
yeah. When we're leaving it, it's our second day, and we were on the far western side of Russia, and we were flying to the far eastern side of Russia. So it was
Right.
over a 9-hour plane ride, and we went through 9 time zones in that time.
Oh, wow.
You know,
Holy
so I mean, it kind of screws you
9
up. Yeah.
time
Wow.
zones in Russia alone.
Yes. So then,
Just so think of the vastness of that land.
yes, exactly. I mean, you cannot fathom the size of it. I mean, it's like 2 of the United States, really. I mean, you can get from New York to LA in 4 hours,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's
It's like
more
two,
than 2. Yeah.
two
yeah.
United States is next to each other.
So basically, as soon as we landed at Petropavlovsk, I might butcher the name a little bit, but that's what I call it. We got off the plane, went through like customs, got interviewed there again, and got on a bus for an 8.5-hour bus ride up into the mountains.
On a gravel road.
Yeah, and most of it was a gravel road. It was beautiful scenery,
Okay.
We stopped at one little store, got some liquor, some food, some drinks and stuff for camp, and then we got to a really cool hotel, motel, whatever you want to call it, in a little town called Esso. I'd be guessing and saying maybe it's 2,000 people in town, 1,000 people in town. It was pretty small.
Now, what about your luggage at this point? How much luggage did you pack, and was it with you the whole entire time? Like, I would be terrified about that. I feel you would need a lot of clothes, a lot of layers.
Not really.
That's
I
a
mean,
lot of luggage.
it was not as cold as you think. I mean, it was like deer hunting in Wisconsin. It was in the high 40s during the day, low 20s when we were out in the morning. Most days were sunny and warm, so I mean.
So Petropavlovsk to Esso, and then Esso on another bus.
No, so then we took a helicopter to camp.
Okay. Now you're on a helicopter. So this is day 3 or 4, John?
Well, it's the third day.
Yeah,
really.
be the third day, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So then you get to Esso. Have you eaten at this point? Are you eating along the route?
Yeah, we're eating.
What are you eating?
Well, I had the best rotisserie chicken I ever had in Russia, so I got to
For
get the
real?
rest. I got to get the recipe for that. But other than that, not so good.
Will there be a little language barrier when you're trying to get the recipe is my real question.
Yeah,
And
pretty much a guarantee. Yeah.
Also, it's a cat or something. Wait, this isn't right.
Well, it did look like a cat, but they said it was chicken. But it was good.
But you were so hungry by that point, it probably was fine.
It was wonderful.
I mean, I remember the food in Russia as being intriguing, very bland.
Yes.
But I really liked like the caviar. I mean, the caviar, the salmon roe, and the beluga caviar, which is the black caviar from sturgeon, is phenomenal. Okay, we haven't even got to camp yet, and half the show's gone. So I can tell you this show's going to move fast because this is a fascinating topic. We're talking to John and Ben Wazkowski. We'll be right back on Raised in Wisco. See you in a minute.
The spirit of the woods is like an
Oh, you can't go wrong with a little Uncle Ted song, Fred Bear. I talked earlier about Kaz at Buck Rub, who actually hunted with Fred Bear. The name of this song, Fred Bear by Ted Nugent, actually had the honor and privilege of hunting with Fred Bear at one point. You're listening to Raised in Wisco on 540 AM WAUK 101 FM, The Shaw. And very apropos that we had Fred Bear bringing us back from the commercial, because we've got John Miller and Ben Wazkowski here, who just got back from their bear hunt in Russia. And it is such, I'm telling you, you can sit and listen to stories from this trip for hours. We're halfway through the show, and we've only got them through Petropavlovsk to Esso, Russia. And one of the things I want to talk about, and I want to see if you notice this, people think of Russia. When you say Russia, they think of Moscow, the Kremlin, the big hats, the big fur hats, babushkas, Kazakhstan, maybe. But if you realize the vast giganticness of Russia, it's so multicultural. And the area of Russia you were going to is it's really part of Asia. It's right above, the Japanese islands and above China. And so was it cool? Was it neat to see the variety of culture and cultural influences? Because that's something that's always fascinating to me, is experiencing different cultures. And I don't think most people who talk about Russia realize how multicultural Russia is and how different it is from one end of it to the other.
Yeah, to answer that question, it was a really cool experience. I mean, obviously everybody spoke Russian, but especially once we got to Esso, you started seeing, like you said, some of the Asian type, Eskimo type Inuit people. There's still the Russian people there too, but the ethnicity changed a little bit, but everybody still speaks Russian. And when we got into camp, half of our guides were Inuits and half of them were Russians. The European descent Russians, they were all Russians, but like I said, it was a very cool experience. I mean, it was nothing like I expected. But nothing in a negative way either.
What were you expecting?
Well, I guess I was expecting a little bit more coldness, maybe a little more difficulty, but I was prepared for that. But I mean, we had none of that. It was a very organized trip by the outfitter. We had people riding along with us, making sure all the paperwork was right, and helping us through all the checkpoints and stuff. It was very, very non-stressful.
It was
that
smoother
way.
than you thought it might be.
Right.
John, you were one of the interesting things. Set the stage for me about when you're hunting and the amount of snow in this area, because this blows my mind.
Yeah, quite a bit of snow. So it's basically on the Bering Sea. So there was probably 15 to 17 feet of snow maybe in some of the mountains. And
so basically you're seeing small Christmas trees on top of 17 feet of snow, and you're really seeing a 20-foot tree, a 20-foot pine tree, and you're just seeing the top of it.
Correct. Yeah, I'm like, whoa, who planted all these seedlings here? And actually, it's the top of the tree. So when it warmed up and you didn't have like snowshoes on or something like that, you'd just be walking, and all of a sudden you're down to your armpits, and it's like, okay.
And then you're still on 10 feet of snow below your
Absolutely.
feet.
You got to hope you hit a branch. Otherwise.
What happens if you were to break through the crust on the top of that snow and sink 20 feet in snow?
Well, there's so many trees that I think the trees save you from going all the way down.
So you're literally counting on trees to not be completely under snow.
Yeah,
20 feet under snow. And then you go hunting on snowmobiles to find the bears.
Correct.
You go try to find the bears on snowmobiles. So I'm a bad passenger. I'm filled with anxiety when I'm a passenger to begin with. And then you were telling me they kind of go like a bat out of hell on these snowmobiles. So you got all your hunting gear on, you're dressed for the weather, and you get on the back of a snowmobile, right?
Correct.
And then what happens?
Well, you just ride around and looking for fresh tracks, and if they come across something that looks fresh to them, you just start following them.
But you're on the back of a snowmobile on top of 20 feet of snow.
Yeah, in a sled. They have a sled that they tow behind, and actually they're quite comfortable.
So you're sitting in the sled.
Correct.
Oh wow.
Behind.
Behind it.
Like we used to, I would get towed around when I was a kid behind a snowmobile.
Like a dog sled, but they tow it behind the snowmobile. And basically got you sitting on a car seat, and you're strapped in, and you got your goggles and your ski mask on.
Like
and
a booster seat?
Yeah, something like that, a giant booster seat.
And a big booster seat in
with
the
little
sled.
pom-poms hanging off the side.
It really wasn't too bad.
Is there like a little child on board sign on the snowmobile?
I put that in the back of my
No,
head.
it wasn't too bad. But so you get out there, you end up harvesting. So you catch up to where the bears are, and you kind of put the stalk on them, and you were able to you shot a bear at the top of a mountain,
correct?
Or top of a snowdrift.
Yeah, it was pretty much a mountain. Yeah.
So you're at the top of them. You're at the bottom of the mountain, and you shoot the bear at the top of the mountain. Then what happened? Take us through. Take the listeners through this story.
So my two guides on their snowmobiles thought they would try to drive up there, and one was like 64, I think. And
now,
the other...
I'm sorry. You can't understand a word they're saying, and they can't understand a word you're saying. Correct?
No. There's no. They understand anything. Nothing.
They don't. You're
Nothing.
with them. And
they know like stop or they know shoot, and gun, but they don't know anything, and you don't know what they're saying. But anyways, I figured out they were going to try to make a run at this bear, and it was probably at like a 50 or 60 degree angle up, and he got probably 3/4 of the way over, and then both snowmobiles flipped over backwards.
Flipped over backwards?
Backwards.
Were you on the snowmobile?
No, I was at the bottom.
So you're watching your guides, the experts in this,
right?
Like going up a sheer cliff of snow and God knows what in the way, and maybe trees, and they both flip backwards off over their.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So are you cold at this point?
No, I'm not cold. I mean, I was full of adrenaline then. It was warm, and they just called me up and said, "Come on," like waved me up to help, and I took after the mountain. But walking in 10 feet of snow or 12 feet of snow and you break through is pretty tough. But
so how did they get? Did they get these sleds, these snowmobiles, these snow machines? Did they get them up the face of this cliff?
They got them about 3/4 of the way up before they flipped over.
Then what?
Well, then we dug them out and we got them pointing in the right direction down the hill, and we actually climbed up to the bear and put a rope on it to tow it down. And on the way down, it got hung up on something.
The bear.
The bear got hung up
so
something.
So you're on the snowmobile.
Right. Behind the guide on the snowmobile, towing the bear down a 60 probably degree mountain.
So he's going down the mountain sheer.
Uncontrollably.
And a 1,000-pound bear is trailing you by rope.
Correct.
That sounds like there are many opportunities for something to go drastically
wrong.
Oh,
it did. Yeah. So on the way down, we hung up on a stump or something, or the top of a tree or whatever. I'm not real sure we hung up on. And the bear got hung up, and we went flying.
So the bear, like a bungee cord at its limit, all of a sudden it stops. The sled's going 30 miles an hour. It stops. And you guys go rear end over tea kettle.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, he flew through the windshield and pulled that off and part of the hood off and ripped his pants off. So now we got a half-naked Russian on the side of the mountain.
What?
So I'm 6 foot and 230 pounds, and I landed on top of him, unfortunately.
And you're out in the wilderness with a half-naked Russian?
Come here, let's keep warm.
Oh, my gosh. That sounds like a beginning of a horrible joke. So, for Danielle, are you going to be all right? Danielle, you're starting to tear up over there.
That's really funny.
Well, it's funny now.
Walk around
it wasn't so funny at the time.
I bet it wasn't funny at all.
No.
The first thing I have to ask.
Stare in amazement. Like, you paid for this.
You paid to do this.
You paid to do
Yeah.
Is he okay?
Well, for a minute or two, I didn't think he was okay. He didn't say anything, and he was just laying there.
So did you? So he flies off. You fly off not the adrenaline. The I mean, your
The
inertia,
momentum took us,
the momentum, inertia. You fly off over after him. Did you guys land next to each other?
I hit him and then flew past him.
You landed on him.
And then went over him, and then over the side of the mountain to the bottom.
And how far down?
25 feet maybe or so. Not far, but...
Were you hurt?
No, there was like 15, like I said, a lot of snow, so...
So how do we get this bear back?
Wait a minute. No. We can't get there yet. I want to know if he's this guy. I want to know if the guide's okay and where are his pants?
Well, his pants are hanging on the handlebar of the snowmobile.
Okay, why were his pants so loose?
Well, they weren't.
How?
There was just so much
Imagine
momentum.
the pressure if you're going 30 miles an hour and hit a dead stop.
Dead stop.
Okay, but first I'm thinking about shoes. What about these shoes?
Oh, he had his shoes on yet.
Did we?
He had
Just
his
no
boots
pants.
on, but no. Oh my! But was he hurt? Was he bleeding?
He wasn't bleeding. He had a huge, his leg just swelled up like crazy. So it was more of his leg and
his leg must have hit the handlebar.
in his
on the way
ribs.
over.
Yeah. I think he got most of it on his upper thigh, but he did have some sore ribs. But he laid there for like 2 or 3 minutes, and he didn't really say much and wasn't moving. And then I kind of freaked out because I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? Like this guy's laying here. He's not saying anything.
And you have no GPS out there. You're out there by yourself in the middle of
The only thing I know how to do is put a tourniquet on somebody, and that probably wouldn't have helped them. So.
And they're probably just, once they are both awake, just yelling and rushing at each other. So
was he knocked
that
out?
That would freak me out as well.
No, he just was laying there. He just didn't really.
Was it just the two of you, or was there?
There was 3 of us actually. There was the 2 guides and myself. But
did you shake him? Did you go over to him? Did you think at some point I might have to give CPR to this guy?
Yeah.
I mean,
I was thinking he was screwed because I have no medical training. So.
Well, tough luck.
I cannot.
See you later.
Holy cow! So he starts moving, and then what? It's not like you can't say to him, "Are you okay?" He doesn't know what that means.
The other guy made his way down, and I gave him my pants. So now I didn't have any I had some Helly Hansen rain gear type things on that I was wearing over my clothes to keep myself dry, and so I gave him those, and then he came to and kind of just limped around a little bit, but shook it off. And he was 64 years old. He was a pretty. They're tough
cow,
people.
That is
they're tough people.
Tough Russian.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Wow. And so you get back on the snowmobile and keep going?
Well, we got her skinned out, and we skinned the bear out at the bottom of the hill there and packed it up and had some lunch and headed back.
How long was the ride back?
Probably maybe 3 hours. I think we put on maybe
3
200
hours
miles
on
a day.
A snowmobile. Yeah. That's a long way to go on a snowmobile.
Right.
And did he have to seek medical treatment when he got back, or?
No, he was just pretty bruised up and banged up. Pretty black and blue the next day.
You went right to the vaca.
You could have died. You know that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's not. We're not messing around here. I mean, had you flown over each other or hit each other in the head when you landed, you both could have been. That could have been your final resting place in the middle of Esso, Russia, in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Yet he booked another trip to go out there.
John is going back to Russia within this same year, because clearly that was not a close enough brush with death.
That's what makes it fun.
Hey, Ben, tell me why. Tell me why you were hungry enough to eat raw bacon and what is up with that?
Well, I like to eat. That's
well,
the
so
secret.
do I. Food's my favorite dish.
No, that was more of a
sushi grade. I call my limit at sushi grade bacon.
No, that was more of a mistake on my part and a misidentification of the food. There's cheese and crackers and sausage out on this platter, and I just thought it was a piece of Swiss-looking type cheese because it was white.
The bacon?
Yes, yeah, that was raw. So I grabbed a piece and I threw it in my mouth, and the minute I put it in my mouth, I realized the texture was not cheese. So, being a good sport, I just chewed it a couple times and swallowed it. And I said, "What the heck is this?" to the interpreter, and he says, "Oh, that's bacon." I said, "Well, we fry our bacon," and he says, "Oh, we eat it raw, and it goes good with vodka, And that's just a tradition because.
I mean, we have carnivore sandwiches, so.
Yeah,
we had a lot of bacon at camp, but none of it was cooked.
I love cannibal sandwiches.
There we go.
I love cannibal sandwiches, and that is Anastasia's nodding. I think she likes cannibal sandwiches too, which is the finest cut of beef, the very finest cut of the tenderloin, ground, and then put on rye bread with salt, pepper, and onions. And there's very little that I like more than that. That's an awesome Wisconsin tradition. But that is wholly and completely different than the raw stomach of a pig.
Well, it was smoked, so I mean.
Well, maybe it was.
Yeah,
was
maybe,
it?
Yeah. I'm still here.
So they ended up having raw bacon on the platter with cheese and crackers.
Correct.
Intentionally.
Did your stomachs all make it through this whole trip fairly well, both of you?
Yeah. I got an iron gut.
Well, obviously you
That's
do have
fun.
an iron gut. When we come back, we're going to wrap up these two Jamokes hunt in Russia, the far reaches of Russia, and lots more on Raised in Wisco. We'll be right back.
We'll get that buck.
If some of our teenage
We'll get that buck.
if some of our teenage
Find a nest in the hills, chill like Flint. Buy an old drop top, find a spot to pimp. Then I'm a kid, rock it up and down your block with a bottle of scotch.
Kid
Rock it
Rock,
out.
Anastasia
Buy a yacht
killing
with a
it.
flag saying
Awesome.
chillin' the most. Then
Nice
rock that,
choice.
jumping
Chillin' the
down.
most.
Give a toast to the sun.
That's Kid Rockin', who, by the way, is a very big fan of hunting and cooking what he kills. So that's right up our alley here on Raised in Wisco with Joel Clayfish. That's me, and alongside Danielle Fairman. Before the break, we had sore stomachs listening to John Miller and Ben Laskowski's account of their Russian bear hunt.
Half-naked
Which
men
ended
and raw
up
bacon.
with a
Sounds like a great trip.
half-naked Russian flying through the Russian wilderness, and John flying right after him over the handlebars of the snow machine and landing on him.
Crushing.
Did you just about kill him when you landed on him?
I think so, Joe. I'm a 230, 6 foot, 230, and probably going 25 miles an hour myself. Yeah.
Hey, John, you don't look a pound over 229, buddy.
Thanks.
I'm just saying. I'm just telling you. And then we got Ben, who's on the trip, and he's eating raw bacon. I mean, which they obviously served with the cheese and crackers. So a warning to everybody who ends up in the far reaches of Russia, just above the peninsula of Japan there, you may have raw bacon on the hors d'oeuvre plate. Now, me, if it was smoked, I'd go for it. I don't
I
mind.
would try it.
I don't mind bacon a little
I'll
rubbery.
try
I really
almost
don't.
anything.
I like bacon all the way from rubbery all the way to crispy. I mean, it's bacon. You can't
bacon.
really screw it up.
Still got to be cooked, though.
Yeah, well, it's got to be
Somewhat.
smoked or something. Otherwise, you get that trichinosis issue.
Did you have any exciting no pants?
No,
bands on
he's
your-
got a story that he almost died.
Well, I
We'll
won't
get to
say
that.
almost died, but I certainly
Could have
was.
died.
I
Could
was
have
a
died.
little freaked
There
out
are
for a
points,
second. Yes.
At which both of you could have died.
Right. I mean, I thoroughly believe, even though we had the language barrier going on, that we were pretty well damn lost, because I could tell by the look on his face he did not know where he was, and all we did was.
So what is the look on a Russian's face? when
Well,
they look
it's just
like
kind of a
they're lost?
blank, he. There's no confidence in his face. You can read people.
You can see he kinda was looking around like, where am I?
and we're
there's no GPS
Yeah,
out
and the
there, right?
nervousness a little bit. He had a cell phone, but it was not getting reception where we were. So we were driving around kind of frantically, and I think he was trying to get reception to get kind of bearings on his map or whatever. And at one point, he just gets off his snowmobile, pulls a pin on the sled, and takes off with his little dog and leaves me out in the middle of nowhere
his
on top of
dog?
this mountain. Yeah, he had a little dog with him.
So did he say, did he motion to you, you stay here?
I think he knew that I knew he was lost, and he just left. So I'm sitting there in the sled on top of this mountain, and I'm thinking, well, this might be it, it'll be a good way to check out, I guess. It's kind of pretty here, I mean, I literally listened to this snowmobile go off in the distance till it was quiet, and it was probably
he went that far?
Okay,
Yeah.
What time of the day is this? Is
It was
this
midday, 1 o'clock,
okay.
But I mean, I'm like, okay, I'm assuming he's trying to get reception, but now I don't hear him, So it was probably a half hour before he got back, and I slowly hear the whine of the snowmobile coming back, and I'm like, okay,
That
he
must
must
have been
still
a
love me or
huge-
something,
huge
So yeah.
relief.
Yeah. And then I could tell he had confidence in his face. So he, like I say, we're in the wilds of Russia. These mountains are huge, just basically like Alaska,
Sure.
And I mean, it was beautiful, but it was definitely someplace you could easily get lost, And I'm thinking they would have found me eventually with a helicopter or something, but
really,
yeah,
do you really think there's going to be all that much excitement?
I would have just made an American flag in the snow.
To go find Ben Wazkowski.
I got fans
in the middle of Russia. I don't know if they're all getting together and saying, "Comrades, we got to go find Ben Wazkowski."
But in the interim, Joe, I shot a huge ass bear. John shot a huge ass bear, and it was one of the best hunting trips I ever had. I can't, because they're all good. I mean, but it was definitely the most exciting. It was one of the most exciting hunt trips. It was the most exciting hunt trip I've ever been on.
So what do we do with these bears after we bring them back?
Yeah, did you guys get to eat any of the bears while you were
the bears just got out of hibernation. Well, they just got out of hibernation, and there are parasites in them. There's worms in them. Okay. We did take some of the hindquarters, and they dried the meat for their dogs. You know, so I mean, the meat didn't go to waste. You know,
sure, good.
And we will be getting the hides and the skulls back. We're both getting full mounts.
Oh, they're beautiful. Yeah, I saw those bears. Yeah. They're absolute monsters. They are a thing of beauty. When you hold those giant, brown bear paws up and see the actual
the paw's
size.
Bigger than my head. I mean, it's just gigantic.
Crazy.
You know.
And he's got and folks, you can't see him, but Ben's got a big melon. So those paws are. Those paws are big, and I think what you just hit on the head there too. I try to live by this. You don't know what good is unless you've seen bad. You don't know a sunny day unless you've seen a rainy day. And the experiences that you have from this trip are literally the experiences of a lifetime. And I have never in my life, outside of maybe the birth of my children or my wedding day, I have never had experiences in my life like I have had in the outdoors to this day. One of the best experiences I ever had in my entire life was when my mom bugged my dad to take me on a boat, and I put a Rapala on the end of my little fishing rod and caught this big northern. My dad was kind of a pessimistic German. Wow, what are you going to catch with that big lure? And I ended up catching this big northern, brought it home, and my mom meticulously took out the bones, and we cooked up the northern. Those experiences you have in the outdoors of Wisconsin and around the world, they are life-changing. And they turn you from somebody who's going to die someday, and people say, yeah, they were a great person, but, I'm not sure what they did. So be the person who takes the chance and does. Be the person who takes an adventure. And you know what? That's one of the great things about living in this state. Adventure is around the corner. In Devil's Lake, it's in a cornfield next to the Piggly Wiggly. It's in the woods down the street. It's in the side of the subdivision. It's in the ponds of the subdivisions. And don't be afraid to say yes. And now you guys said yes to something that was fairly extreme. But that is an experience and an adventure that no one will be able to take away from you for the rest of your life. And that is the reason, from silent sports all the way through shooting sports, through hunting and fishing, conservation, these great United States and other places in the world, that God grants us in this United States the ability to visit and come back from to this great nation. And if you are not participating in that, you are missing out on life. Press the S button. I am telling you, the biggest thing very often that I tell people to make a trip happen, buy the plane ticket. Buy the plane ticket first, then find your accommodations, find your guide, find your hiking trail, find your river, find your stream, find your trout stream. Grab a rod, grab a reel, grab a pan. Make this life about experiencing everything else outside of your view. Because life does not happen on that 3x7-inch thing you hold in your hand. That's 2 dimensions. Life is 3-dimensional. Go out there and grab it.
Preach.
Right,
Preach
Danielle?
Right. Right. And you were listening to Raised in Wisco. Those were words of wisdom by our host, Joel Clayfish.
But what a great week. Thanks very much to John Miller and Ben Wazkowski.
Yes, thank you.
Danielle, thank you for your infectious laugh throughout the show today. I don't know what we'd do without it. It was great. You've been listening to Raised in Wisco. We'll see you next week on 540 AM WAUK 101 FM, The Show.